All right, good evening. Friday update, May 14th, 2021. Couple quick points to get through here. St. Jude. First, I want to say thank you to the Sergeants Association, Lieutenants Association for standing right alongside us with making this happen. We have their full support from the beginning of this effort. This is a parade that has gone on with last year being the only exception. And as I've said, we understood that exception. We had 3 officers who passed away from COVID within less than 3 weeks in April. It was a new dynamic with a pandemic, worldwide pandemic, and what was going to come next. And the 3 deaths back to back to back right before the St. Jude March would have taken place. We understood why the march was canceled last year. However, they've had plenty of time to adjust to the new reality of the world that we live in. Our officers were packed in buses, sitting there for hours on end, shoulder to shoulder, 40, 50 in a bus, with no consideration for COVID or any other safety for that matter, during the riots of last year. You can couple that with packing officers into classrooms for mandated training because of the consent decree, instead of suspending because nobody else was in a classroom. No students or teachers were in a classroom, but our officers were in classrooms. Again, no regard whatsoever for COVID. They were willing to use us to their benefit just to check boxes off for a federal consent decree. We're now a year plus into this pandemic, and they're still using COVID as an excuse why St. Jude had to be canceled again this year. Inexcusable, and it's just not going to float. So we are pushing forward with our plans to lead the St. Jude March on this Sunday, 9:30 step off. Parking will be a little more different, farther away than normal. So please make accommodations to get there earlier than normal, because it's going to be about a 3-block walk from parking lot C underground to south end of McCormick Place along the lakefront to the park. But we do encourage everybody who can make it to make it. Dress blues is the dress code of the day. Retirees are welcome. Retirees are going to march in this parade. It's going to be different than any other parade for a couple reasons. Because we're doing it, for one. For two, we want it to stand out and be different than the normal. But this is still about the Gold Star families and our fallen, and honoring them and remembering them. Normally you get a little check mark for showing up and saying that your spring uniform inspection is done. There's no other reason to show up this year other than remembering the fallen and honoring the Gold Star families. So please consider that. We're definitely looking to have a good turnout. It's not only about the Gold Star families. There is a little caveat to it that it does send a signal to the city that we are going to stand united and do the right thing for our members every single time across all ranks, sergeants and lieutenants included. So it will be the bagpipes, the Gold Star families, any retirees who wish to march will then be behind the Gold Star families, and then all active officers will be behind the retirees. We will not be separating in the unit designators or any of that. We are all one family. We all bleed blue, and we're going to march as one family. There will not be any separation of ranks. Sergeants, lieutenants will be mixed in with patrolmen. There will be no anybody's ahead of somebody else. So that's going to be the dynamic. Once it's over, we're going to disperse as quickly as possible, because I know the department and the city does not want this parade to go on. The Park District, I'm sure, will be on scene. I'm told that they're aware of this parade, and who knows what to expect. But the department is making it as difficult as possible for us to facilitate this, but it's still going on no matter what. A couple other topics to get to. Canceled days off. If you are receiving late or last minute notice about extension of tours when you get to roll call that you are now going to be working 12 hours that day, we need to know. We're getting calls about it. I've addressed it with the superintendent. He's told me that that's not the case. Proper notification has gone out. So again, until the lodge is made aware, it's kind of hard to pitch an argument to the powers that be. So the more information we have, the better argument I have to make. Detectives, RBT specifically. I know you're getting stuck out on the corners again this weekend. There isn't much we can do with that. That's just a sad reality. If the department is willing to let cases sit and go cold without detectives investigating them because they're not a violent crime, Well, then that's an answer that they can give the citizens who have these case reports waiting for an answer. It's not going to change anytime soon, I'm told. They seem to think that scarecrow policing is the way to go, and just mere presence on street corners is going to make a difference. It's been proven that it doesn't. We've all known shootings that happened even in the old VRI boxes, literally at the other end of the block where a squad car was at. These criminals are not going to stop unless they are kept in jail or sent to prison for long terms. That is the only solution to the crime problem in this city, is getting criminals off the street for extended periods of time. Until the superintendent and the mayor want to start calling out the state's attorney and the judges, the chief judge and everybody else in the criminal courts who keep letting these offenders out with almost no consequences whatsoever or no bail whatsoever, this isn't going to change no matter how many policemen you put on a street corner. Canceled days off are coming. One of the 2 days off canceled coming up starting Memorial Day next weekend. I'm told all days off will be canceled for all department members for July 4th weekend, more than likely. So that's just what we're facing right now. We're pushing back as best we can. You know, there isn't a lot of leverage in the contract to do that, but I will tell you, specific to the contract, one of the proposals we did tender was for double time for canceled days off. It's a little solace if you're getting screwed. You're going to get a little more pocket change, but this dynamic of you only get time and a half to get forced to work and you get the same amount to volunteer to work doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Never did, but we're going to at least try and change that going forward and have some better parameters about how these cancellations actually take place. I will say spring session has got about 2 weeks left to go. We're still fighting as best we can against 3653. And speaking of Springfield, the irony is the superintendent attended the state memorial down in Springfield, but we can't have a St. Jude's parade in Chicago. Doesn't make any sense. But back to the legislation. The authors of that bill pretty much have put their feet in cement and said, we're good. They're not wavering very much in fixing some of the nightmare within their own bill. But we still have 2 weeks to go. So hopefully the closer we get to the finish line, the more come to Jesus moment they have about what that bill really means and what it's going to do. We had over 40 officers, patrol and sergeants retired today alone. That's not going to get any better the closer we get to July 1st inception date. We have 2,000 plus officers that can retire and collect a check tomorrow. The pension fund can't really sustain a hit like that all at once, let alone this department that's undermanned and understaffed. They keep saying that it's only about, I think he told me, 800 officers under, and they plan at having a hiring frenzy now where they should be able to catch up within about a year to full staffing. I don't see that happening, and it's also a matter of getting the right bodies, not just anybody to fill a chair. But we'll see how that all pans out. With that being said, have a safe weekend. Know that we're going to keep fighting the fight. We need cooperation. If any officer has an issue, please call the lodge, whether it's performance management implications or threats from sergeants for lack of activity. If you have sheets that you can produce to the lodge as far as beat coverage and rapid cars, please send them to us too, because we're looking at a lawsuit for manpower shortages across this city. I'll just give you one of the really egregious issues is the 6th district and the fact that that's their span and control according to the consent decree, and they can't even staff that district properly. The mismanagement within this department is ridiculous. I don't even know where the blame actually falls, or who's running the department at this point. It seems like it's by committee and nobody's taking the lead. That's just a sad reality. Have a good weekend. Stay safe. By the way, I forgot one thing. I wanted to acknowledge Windy City's Finest, one of our baseball teams that we sponsor. They won the championship out in LA, the Wild Wild West tournament, back-to-back champs. I'm not playing favorites, but I'm just acknowledging a great athletic achievement. Good job, guys. Keep up the good work.